Okay, everyone, welcome. We're here on a Friday afternoon. It's hot, but you guys have all stayed the course. You're here with us. So look, this is going to be a really, really exciting panel. It might actually be the most exciting panel of this whole entire COP. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Good chance.
Good chance. Good chance. So I'm Alex Pereira. I'm the Director of Corporate Energy Partnerships for the WRI Polski Energy Center. The Polski Energy Center looks for integrated solutions to drive a fast, affordable energy transition. So exactly what this panel is going to be discussing. The title of this panel, Scaling Clean Energy with Trust and Speed. I hope you're all in the right place. But if you're not, you're welcome to stay. We've heard a lot this week about where are we, how are we doing on the tripling renewable energy goal by 2030. That was an important commitment the country's made. And, we're making a lot of progress. I think, 91% of renewables deployed last year of energy, new capacity last year was renewables. And those are generating, outcompeting, fossil fuel plants. So renewables are seeing a lot of success, but we're still not there in the trajectory. And, what can be done to lean into the existing technologies that are available now to scale them up for 2030. So we need actors from industry, utilities, governments, all to be aligned on this. So we know industry needs policy, standards, and infrastructure. They can't do it without those things. To get the infrastructure right, we need policy and finance. WRI, GRA, and RE100 actually just announced earlier this week a coalition called the Latin America Clean Energy Coalition, which is intended to do exactly this, of bringing the voices of industry together with governments to drive alignment on better policy for clean energy deployment and help meet that 2030 goal for the region. I will also say standards are key to building credibility. And all of this needs to work together. So we really have a great panel to explore this. We've got a really diverse set of experiences and perspectives. I think this panel will make this a pretty easy work this afternoon, and we should be wrapped up maybe even early with all the answers. So let me introduce from 3M, Dr. Gail Schuler, Senior Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer. Round of applause, everybody. From E.ON, Mr. René Monod, Senior Vice President, Strategy and Sustainability. Round of applause. From the Hydrogen Council, Ms. Ivana Jemelkova, Chief Executive Officer. Round of applause. And from the British Standards Institute, Ms. Emily Faint, Senior Policy Manager of Net Zero. Round of applause. All right. I'm going to put this down for a second. Now we're going to get to work. So, Ivana, this first question is for you, okay? So, as we said, 2030 is not far away. And we really need to make a push and accelerate pace of all sorts of clean energy solutions and deployment. So from your perspective, how can the clean energy sector continue progressing and accelerate this deployment to reach these targets?
Such a pleasure to be here with you, Alex, and all. And can I start by saying how much I appreciate the can-do spirit and the energy you've brought in. A round of applause for our moderator. Because if we could bottle this, and if we could apply it on the energy transition, we'd be done tomorrow. There's no problem at all. So look, I speak on behalf of the global hydrogen industry, and our message is very clear and simple. Hydrogen is ready to go. In fact, hydrogen has enjoyed a tremendous growth trajectory over the last 5 years. We've seen 10 times growth in capital investment, from 10 to 110 billion. Now we have over 500 mature, firm, committed projects around the world that are not about technology breakthrough, but really scale. And that's why we are here at COP, to talk to governments about how we continue that trajectory, to your point on how we lean in. And 2 hours ago, I was in a ministerial roundtable on sustainable fuels, where some 30 governments and 70 non-state actors endorsed BELEM 4 times. That's our target, to go and scale another 4 times all sustainable fuels, including hydrogen. So we're thrilled, we're pumped up. But as we all know, the pledges are one thing, the execution is another. So really, it goes down or boils down to the community of doers who are building, who are scaling, who are making it happen. And I think that's what I'm taking away from the conversations so far.
That's great. Very good to know that the hydrogen sector is ready to grow. Ready to grow. Well, that gives me some hope and some optimism. So let's take, from E.ON's perspective, you guys are looking at the technology landscape and seeing what's ready and what's workable. What are the most promising clean energy technologies for industrial decarbonization that you're seeing? And how can we scale adoption?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. To your question, actually, I agree with the main message. We have the technologies ready. This is the good news. There isn't, of course, there's always room for innovation. There's always room for new technology. But it's not that we don't have the technology that we need for climate neutrality. From an E.ON perspective, we are Europe's largest, one of the largest DSO operators, so distribution grid operators. But we also have a strong customer solution sector, and industrial customers, especially in Europe, are important for us. Recently, we published a study, an energy playbook that shows the roadmap, the most cost-efficient roadmap to climate neutrality. And our finding was that with a clear focus on electrification, most industrial customers will have the ability to find a way to climate neutrality and don't lose competitiveness, which is a very important argument in all regions of the world, especially in Europe. There's a strong discussion now whether we can find a way how to reconcile competitiveness and climate neutrality. So with a strong focus on electrification, this is possible. And we have seen many technological advances with regards to
Renee.
You got to keep the microphone right here.
Sorry. With regards to heat pumps, with regards to batteries, so electrification is possible. And then there are also hard-to-abate sectors where we need hydrogen and green molecules. That's also true. It's also part of the truth. But the good news is, if we have a clear focus on electrification, climate neutrality is possible, and we will see also an industrial future, especially for the companies that have a high energy intensity.
So, for those of you tuning in online, I mean, a critical takeaway is this actually can improve competitiveness. So you're looking at these technologies that industry can adopt and actually be more cost effective. So, a lot of times people say, oh, this transition is going to be expensive, we can't do it, it's going to be hard. Well, we're aware of the barriers, we're open-minded about that, and we're clear, and that's why these conversations are important. But at the end of the day, we're confident that we can do this and actually improve competitiveness. I mean, this is the economic development opportunity of a generation. So maybe we can go next level in with your experience from 3M, one of the big industrial players. You're looking at this as you try to hit your decarbonization goals. And what are some of the key challenges in integrating clean energy solutions into industrial processes, and how can they be addressed from your perspective?
Well, there's obviously a number of challenges that we face as a global industrial manufacturing company. There's very much electrification. So much of what we've done already is electrification. We have 2/3 of our global electricity is now coming from renewables, and we're moving more and more locally. But you realize that some of the industrial processes are not built on electrical basis. And so that's a key part of the transition. In many, many cases, the technologies exist, and it's a matter of making that happen. But it's also a matter of partnerships. We partner with our suppliers, we partner with our customers, and continue to advance the technologies that are required to make that happen. Whether it's replacing natural gas with electric solutions or others, there's plenty of opportunities that we found, and the partnering with others is an absolutely essential piece, along with standards and government requirements make it possible. So we're happy to help with our products as well, enabling nanostructured materials that enable the hydrogen economy, enabling materials that enable the renewable electricity from wind farms to solar and more. It creates a great opportunity as well as challenges for us.
Yeah, just picking up on a theme of partnerships. Nobody can do this by themselves. It's going to require partnerships with suppliers, partnerships with customers, partnerships with the utility, partnerships with regulators, right? And I think, the more we recognize that that's the critical thing, is we have to be working together. So, I think you had a quote about this, and I'm not going to say it until it comes out later. But, partnerships and the innovative partnerships that we can create to drive the solutions is going to be really critical. And that is one of the values of coming to COP, is we're all here together, across sector utility companies actually on a panel together. What can come out of this? What conversations can come out as follow-ups? And that's really exciting to think about. So thinking about partnerships, industry, obviously, Ian, Renee, you mentioned electrification, and electrification needs grids. And so thinking about how smart grids enhance the resiliency and flexibility of energy systems. How does supporting smart grids support integration of renewable energy sources, ensuring grid stability, so it can be available for that kind of electrification of scale at industry?
I think if we talk about smart grids, the first step for us is to build what we call digital twins of our grids and of the energy system, electricity system. Digital twins enable us to simulate what the integration of renewables, but also flexibility option like large-scale, utility-scale battery storage systems, for example, what the integration of those technologies mean for the grid and for the electricity. So we understand better, based on digital twins, AI, what's really happening in the grid and in the system. So this is step number one. Step number two is then to control the grid and to steer behavior, operation of those flexibility options that provides stability for the grid and for the system. Obviously, we will see more flexiuma, we call consumer, that not only generate or consume electricity, but also provides flexibility. We call them flexiuma. Those flexiumas will contribute, maintain, and even increase the grid stability and the system stability. This is the basic benefit of a smart grid. And here again, we have technologies in place. We don't need to wait. We need to deploy AI on a massive level. We are on this. We are investing in AI. We need to roll out smart meters in countries that don't have a 100% smart meter coverage. And we need those flexibility options. And if we have all those three elements, then we will see smart grids happening, and we are not too far from that. So this is the future, and I think this is also the good news, because it also provides the basis for an affordable renewable electricity system.
So yeah, Renee, you mentioned AI, and AI is in the news a lot these days with how much energy data centers are going to use. But also we have to think about what can AI do to actually power a new, more flexible, smarter, adaptive grid that can integrate more technologies and solutions. So it's really interesting just thinking about that angle of what's the value of AI in actually making grids operate much more efficiently, and integrate all these new technologies that we're talking about. All right, so we've got grids that are smart. We're bringing in all these new technologies now. We're making a push to deploy them by 2030. We got to make sure all these things talk to each other and are compatible, and that's, Emily, that's where you come in, because you've got that whole picture solved, right? So from your perspective, what standards are most urgent to support the integration and reliability of advanced energy technologies and infrastructure and development?
Thanks so much, Alex. And, to try and explain where the standards piece comes in, I'm sat here on this panel with clean energy leaders and business leaders, and you may wonder, what is a standards body doing on this panel? And where we are in this discussion is we're the scaling with the trust and with the speed to help leaders like yourselves do what you do best in a way that, as you say, makes sure that the whole system talks to each other, and that we actually can get on with the implementation that we're all here to work on. And the standards that are the most urgent to support are the ones that enable reliability, speed, and integration into our infrastructure. So standards are a shared solution, a commonly agreed solution to a shared market challenge. And it's worth understanding how long we've been using standards in the market to support economic cooperation and global cooperation. So the British Standards Institution, which is the UK's national standards body, fun fact about us, we are actually the world's first ever standards body of any kind. And next year we will be 125 years old. So it shows you, oh, I love that applause, yeah. Our CEO will love that. And it tells you how long that we as a market have recognized that we all benefit, we all cut costs, we all produce more reliable and efficient and effective outcomes if we all work together to share solutions rather than go it our own way. So how we do this is through the international standard system, some of which you may have heard of, ISO, IEC, and others. And those are multilateral systems of cooperation. On technical cooperation, but also economic and diplomatic cooperation. And we are here at COP30, where the COP30 presidency has called for a robust defense of multilateralism. And those aren't just talking words. They are essential if we are going to scale and implement the fantastic innovations and solutions that my co-panelists are leading on. So standards support and promote interoperability. They ensure safety and embed sustainability, either directly, if they are sustainability standards, like the ISO energy efficiency standard, for example, or they ensure that sustainability is considered in the development of other related solutions and products, all the way through from the earliest phases of concept development and design, all the way through to deployment, implementation, and then decommissioning. It's a full life cycle consideration in the standards world. And I want to really, really double down on the excellent points that all of you have made, which is that the technologies we need to deliver on the energy transition in almost all cases already exist. But we need to make sure that they are designed and deployed in the right way to make sure that they deliver on that potential, and that is where standards come in. So some great examples that I could pull out of where standards are shaping rapid innovation and also making sure that they're integrating into existing infrastructure. Solar photovoltaics, the core principles of that technology have obviously been constant, but the phenomenal innovations into that have cut costs, which has supported rapid market uptake and deployment. That's why we have so many great headlines coming out of the energy sector right now. It's why 3M can say that, was it 2/3 of your energy consumption comes from renewable energy? I mean, renewable energy deployment is one of the biggest success stories And we must not forget to be positive about that, even though we do, of course, still have many challenges. And the great work going on in the negotiations here in Belém, talking about concepts like a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels, will add that additional incentives to boost these standards and boost these technologies as they not just sit alongside fossil fuels, but actually start to replace them. That is what we're chasing. And in the UK context, we actually are already seeing these standards being embedded in the regulations that inform how our energy grids work. So a great example is the UK's microgeneration certification scheme, which relies on the IEC standard for validating panel performance and for ensuring safety and consumer protection. And that standard is actually now based on the original UK British standard for wiring regulations, and that has set out the installation requirements across the country, and that builds in that infrastructure, that basis that all these new innovations can connect to or can factor into their design from the beginning. So I know standards may seem like maybe not the sexiest topic when we're talking about climate action and renewable energy generation and energy scaling, but really they are the bedrock of enabling leaders like you to do what you do best.
Here, here.
Here, here. So the goal of this panel is to make Emily much more popular at cocktail parties when she talks
Are
about
you saying I'm
standards.
not already? Alex?
Oh, come on. The standards are
You know,
very
the,
cool.
The standards people are never invited to cocktail parties, but there's we need.
Everyone
We
who's
need to
come
change
to
it.
the standards pavilion this week would disagree with you, Alex.
Oh,
So
that's
maybe you just
true.
need to come along to
That's
more
true.
standards
You guys are
parties.
changing your reputation. Yeah, and the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and the ISO just announced a collaboration to harmonize the protocol and the ISO standards. And actually, there's opened up a call for advisory board members on that, and for people who are interested in that, they should join
Absolutely.
and participate.
It's one of the most exciting steps forward we have in the standard space, that there is going to be finally, after it may seem like an obvious conclusion, but there is going to finally be one single set of internationally agreed between countries and recognized international standards on greenhouse gas accounting, product life cycle assessment, co-created and stewarded by the phenomenal expertise and governance of both the ISO system, of its 175 national standards bodies appointed by their governments to do this work, and the brilliant work, oversight and expertise of the Greenhouse Gas Protocol. And we could not be prouder and more excited about this announcement. And it is, again, the most important message is it's not something that we're going to go off in a room and do, and that you just wait to find out about it. You drive it. That is what consensus models of standards development look like. So if you want to get involved, you can respond to those calls for experts. And my favorite call to action, which I'm sure I will repeat again in this panel, will be to connect with your country's national standards body. So those of you on your laptops and phones, those of you online, if you can open a tab for me and go to iso.org/members. For those of you from the UK, you will find BSI, the British Standards Institution. We are your national standards body. We'd be delighted to help you get involved in our committees. But if you're not from the UK, if you're from, frankly, any country in the world almost, we can help you connect with your national standards body through that list. So iso.org/net zero. Don't wait and be a bystander. Be the driving force of this transition.
Here, here. But wait until after the panel to go do that. So that's great. Thank you, Emily. I think this is really important. It's sort of like the hidden glue behind the progress, and really making sure we've got the standards right and front and center, and setting up technologies to succeed. So going back on to the kind of the governance model side, Gail, policy is really important here to support action. And I'd love to hear reflections from you on the policy challenges you see when trying to scale clean energy across a global enterprise as big as 3M. And I'm going to come across to some of the other panelists on this question too. Just kind of, what are the policy challenges and what are the opportunities to make progress?
When I think about the energy transition, there are so many different entities involved, so many different challenges, whether it's policy, whether it's different companies, trade organizations, standards, all of that. But truly, the energy transition, I've come to believe, will only proceed at the pace of trust. Whether that's trust that each of us is going to play our role, that we're going to develop the materials that will enable Eon, that will enable the others. This wasn't my quote originally. It came from some past COP attendants. But I think that energy transition at the pace of trust is absolutely critical. In our home state, at the state of Minnesota, that state has made a commitment to get to 80% renewable electricity. That helps us move our needle so much more. We are very global in terms of our footprint. There are some parts of the world, notably in Asia, where it's more and more challenging to get that to happen. I'm excited about the solutions that we offer in partnership with our customers, whether it's, as I mentioned before, nanoparticles that really enable the hydrogen transition, or smart grid solutions for cable assemblies and to detect both what's happening from a renewable grid or from something that could be a security issue. Any variety of those things. There's so many solutions, so many challenges. I think policymakers need to stay abreast of what's happening with the technology and be ready to implement. That means that they need to partner with those who are leading the technology advances and those who are in the front of this effort. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and it's great to be at COP where policymakers and NGOs and civil society are here with the private society who can really bring forward what corporate goals are. So very excited to be here.
And if I can jump in on that as well from the policy shaping point of view, again, we talk about how it's not just what a standard says, but how it's made that matters. And again, it's worth understanding what a national standards body is and does. Because each of us, this multilateral system of ISO and others, we are appointed by our governments to be the conduit of the market voices into the international standard system to support agreements at the international level, which then get published at international standards. And this is done in compliance with the World Trade Organization's Technical Barriers to Trade Agreement, which is a policy, wonky, jargony way of saying we design standards in a way that will not put up more barriers, but ensure that they are brought down. And that matters for policymakers because policymakers do not want to design policy or regulation that will harm the markets they are trying to support. Now, there are many ways that they can de-risk that, but one of the most effective ways they can do that is to base policy and regulatory design on consensus-based standards that have been written by the markets they serve. So your national standards body, if I can take an example from BSI, we convene in something like 2,000 national technical committees. It's quite an astonishing juggernaut of expertise that we're proud to have in the UK. And in those committees is not just technology experts, industry experts, we have civil society, we have policymakers, we have regulators. We're leading the development of sort of a relatively well-known organizational focused international standard right now, the ISO Net Zero standard for organizations. And we have, the participation of the entire UK regulatory network in that. And that is because we want to make sure that by the time it is published, it is already accounted for the needs of the policy challenges. So that is how we contribute to this space. But again, turning back to that call to action, we can only know how to address what those policy challenges are if you tell us. We are the conduit for your needs. And so if you're not contributing to best practice standards developed through your
new genius policy frameworks or arrangement, most often it boils down to implementation. That's exactly what we're seeing in hydrogen right now. We have the strategies in place. In most of our key markets, we actually have the implementing policies as well. But what's missing is the walking the talk on the ground. How do we take it from paper into the commercial environment, in the technical rules, in the guidelines, in the standards, frankly, Emily. So it's really about the last mile of that policy decision. And it is so fundamentally important because if we do not have clear, stable, predictable, reasonable, pragmatic policies, we will not, as businesses, be able to get the job done. So call to action is last mile. Let's get this over the finish line. Let's create the environment that will allow businesses to come in, increase the volume, decrease.
But my simple answer would be make people benefit from the energy transition. And PV is an excellent example for this. Another, actually my favorite energy transition technology is bidirectional charging of e-vehicles. Here, by the way, this is a very, very good use case for standards. We need good standards when it comes to, especially to the data that needs to make available for energy utilities or for the interplay between energy utilities and the car manufacturing sector. So this won't go without good standards. A very, very good example how standards can provide innovation, enable innovation. But the point is also that people benefit from driving in e-vehicles when they can provide the electricity stored in this vehicle to the grid in order to increase grid stability, as I said before. So people are not only benefiting from having a nice, innovative car that drives better, more sustainable, faster maybe than a traditional car, but they benefit also from providing this flexibility to the system. So I think this is a really future technology that will help increase public acceptance for the energy transition, and we need standards for having the trust, especially between the sectors.
Can I super quickly pick up on that? Because René said something that I think is fundamentally important. The benefits for the general public, for the population, the users, right? The people. And it's not only the interaction with the cool new device or the interaction with a cool new technology. I think we need to talk a lot more about what it does for communities and industries. I've had the chance to attend a number of openings of new manufacturing plants, new facilities, engineering, R&D centers. And what this does, what this enables in towns, cities, communities around the world is absolutely phenomenal. I look in the eyes of the engineers who are working on some of the latest, greatest innovation, and they tell me, look, I've been in this for 30, 40 years, and now I have a chance to take what I know and channel it into the future, to build the future that I want to have for my children, for this town, for the city, right? We'd be out of business without this, but with this innovation, with this new technology, we can not only continue, we can provide jobs, we can provide livelihoods, we can really feed and fuel our community. So I think we really need to talk about the importance of how this takes jobs, livelihoods and skills and people's lives into the next stage.
Yeah, all excellent points. And to that, I will add, WRI and RE100 and GWEC launched the Asia Clean Energy Coalition as well. So that we launched Latin America this week. Asia Clean Energy Coalition was 3 years ago, 3 days ago. So it's 3 years old. It's a toddler, a 3-year-old. So for those of you who know what it's like to have a 3-year-old in the house, you can't say no to a 3-year-old. They came out with a report looking at what's the economic development benefits of meeting renewable energy goals and targets across Asia. And a couple points. GDP grows faster than business as usual, number one. Number of jobs grows compared to business as usual. But the third point, and this was really interesting, was that wages of people increased with more clean energy investment. So it's not just GDP, which most people don't understand what it is, or number of jobs, which unless you have one, you might not understand that, but it's wages of jobs grow. And so, it's really important to make sure we're highlighting that this is a transition that does flow down to people, and that's really, really exciting. I had another point, and it was a really important point.
We believe you.
And
You meant Go Standards.
Go Standards.
See, I am popular at cocktail parties.
Yeah, see, there you go. I do want to just take a second to open it up for any audience interventions. I don't know if anybody would like to come in and say something. Yes. Can we get a microphone? Oh, we've got a microphone. It's okay.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you very much, Alexander. My name is Sama Bilbao Leon. I'm the Director General of World Nuclear Association. We've been here at these COP meetings for over 25 years, making sure that the essential role of nuclear energy in the climate change discussions is well understood and recognized. So thank you again. This has been a fascinating conversation. And I think that maybe my key takeaway is that there is no silver bullet. There is no one energy or one technology that is going to answer all the questions. So we need to have renewables, we need to have hydrogen, we need to have nuclear energy, we need to have hydropower, geothermal, etc. So how do we bring together all these different industries, all these different technologies, and make the people understand, as you were kind of saying, this is the people's scope, this is the environment scope. How do we translate for people the essential role of abundant, affordable, 24/7 clean energy into their quality of life, their socioeconomic development, their prosperity? I mean, you started to mention that a little bit, but I do welcome, because sometimes people feel that energy is this evil thing that we do to produce CO2 emissions, which clearly is not. It's an enabler for everything else. So I welcome how we articulate this story better.
Yeah, very good questions. Who would like to start?
I would love to kick this off, not least because my first ever job in the UK government when I started my career in Whitehall was on civil nuclear energy. So I saw firsthand. I mean, I think nuclear energy is just it's the best microcosm you could get for the complexity of the energy transition, the complexity of climate action. You have to consider the upfront cost and how it's managed between public and private balance sheets. You have to consider a people-centered transition. To your question, where will the site be? How many jobs does it provide? In the UK, Sellafield, I think, is one of the biggest hubs of nuclear energy expertise in the world, maybe second only to in Switzerland. And it's just such an important part of the transition. But you're right, the story is a struggle. And I remember as a junior official watching our minister at the time hold regular sort of town halls, citizens' assemblies, engagement and questions around nuclear energy, and people would sort of express worries and concerns, and the story wasn't told as well as it could have been. So if I take this question now in 2025, the UK has just published its latest carbon budget delivery plan. We're in the middle of legislating our 7th carbon budget to deliver on our sort of world-leading NDC. And one of the most important things that Ed Miliband, our Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, says in the foreword is British people are paying the price, the penalty of our dependence on fossil fuels. That is why, not only, but a key contributor to the cost of living crisis that is being felt acutely day to day by British people. And I know around the world it is by no means a UK issue. And the best and most effective way I've seen that story told is in this carbon budget delivery plan, where he simply sets out that the way we bring down your energy bills, the way that we increase sort of the money you have left over from your paycheck at the end of the month, is we invest in the technologies needed now to ensure that we control our energy sources. You have greater control and stability, a key word here, over your bills. And that is how you start to feel that your quality of life is going up. Because people work so hard every day, no matter what it is you do, you work so hard every day, and the money you take home at the end of the week or month determines your quality of life. And the energy transition, the technologies that underpin it or don't, and how it's built into an enabling policy environment really determines that. And so I think talking about how this translates to your bills at the end of the month, the money you have left over to enjoy your life, is a story that we really need to get better at telling.
Others?
I'm happy to jump in because, I mean, Emily, you hit the nail on its head, but I think there's even more to this, and that is, if you walk out there, out of the pavilion and ask people what kind of energy they want, they will probably say clean, affordable, stable, secure, But many of them will say, I don't really want to think about my energy, you know? I just want it to be
Wanna
there.
turn the light
I just,
on.
Exactly. I just want to turn on the light, you know, charge my phone, drive my car, and so on. So how do we do that and reconcile it with the fact that the energy transition is a massive undertaking, that it takes a long time? It's expensive by definition. It requires a lot of effort on all sides. But I would like to argue that we as humankind know how to do hard things. We as humankind can challenge ourselves to, you know, rise up and drive something that will transcend our generation. So maybe that is the contribution we can provide as, you know, our generation, the energy transition generation, to leave the world indeed cleaner, safer, more secure and sustainable. But we have to reconcile the fact that everybody wants it. But it's, well, I will not use the expletive, very hard.
And I don't think there's just one answer. You know, we're now seeing a point where renewables are being introduced in the marketplace at twice the rate of traditional fuels, carbon-based fuels, and it's because they're faster and cheaper. And we're seeing that renewables aren't perfect, though. It's going to be a blend of all different solutions, and we need to look at how we harmonize those over time and what the needs are across the board.
Super
so people
point.
don't have to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you make it inevitable? How do you make it just be, right? Without thinking about it, without, you know, make it easy, make it convenient, make it inevitable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the question, the issue of affordability is key. Yeah, because as you said, we need massive investments, which is a positive thing. Investments are driving growth, but in the end consumers need to pay the bill, also to refinance the investments. So affordability is key, and we talked about this, the smartification of the whole system. Smartification is a key for making electricity affordable. The smarter we are, the more efficient we are, and the more affordable electricity will be.
Yeah, just as a reflection, I mean, I guess I've been in this business for maybe too long, but when we started out, it was renewables are really expensive, and we need to subsidize them, and they need a lot of support. And over time, that script has completely shifted. So now, when you're looking at affordability, abundance, scalability, you know, reliability, energy security, and climate, those things can all be done. We have the technologies. So a lot of time it's you know, we don't need to pay more. Actually, people will pay less. You know, there's a lot of analysis showing if you keep a coal plant running beyond its useful life, it's really expensive. And who's going to pay? The homeowner, the household, the individual will pay that on their bill. So we're now at a point where I think there's a really important alignment with achieving the goals of abundancy, affordability, and zero carbon with, you know, affordability for people, and that's really exciting. I do have a few more questions. I think we've got about 5 more minutes or so. Maybe we can stretch it to 7. But, you know, from an equity perspective, you know, just thinking about what moves standards, transparency, innovation, as we think about this transition to net zero, how do we build the societal trust in these emerging technologies? So we're up here, we know what we're talking about, or at least we pretend like we know what we're talking about. How do we build that trust in the broader set of consumers that aren't in this room, that this transition will work for them? What do you guys think?
Well, to kick that off, I mean, it's a great question. I think trust is at the heart of everything that we do in this space. And actually, the OECD recently published a fantastic report on reinforcing regulatory frameworks to address global challenges. It looks at public policy challenges like climate change, within that the net zero transition, the deployment and utilization of AI, global health and health. I mean, when we talk about how we make this story better understood by people, we should really also talk about the phenomenal outcomes on public health when clean energy is deployed as well. But to answer your question, Alex, the bit of the OECD report that is really interesting to understand is it highlights the system called quality infrastructure. And quality and trust is really what we're here to talk about today, as it applies to so many of the interconnected challenges that are involved in the climate transition. And what it does is it identifies that every goods body, which agrees what good looks like based on your input, and then formalizes and scales that. It has a measurement body, so that if I, in the UK, say that this is 1 ton of CO2, my colleagues in India agree, yes, we also understand that that is 1 ton of CO2. And accreditation bodies, which provide that additional layer of trust that accredits those assurance markets that go out and says, yes, you are following the standard, you are doing things right. And I know that may sound kind of boring and technical, but let me ask you, the food that you put in your mouth today, did you know the chef? Did you know who grew it or who prepared it? No, you just bought it and you ate it trusting that it would be safe to eat. And that's because food safety standards have been developed or embedded in regulation, because no one wants food safety to be optional. We can all agree on that. And that system works together to deliver market trust and interoperability. It's why your credit card works no matter which country you're in. And it's also why credit cards are all the same size, fun fact. The laptop you're all typing on now is the outcome of 200 standards. I think it's about 200. So you actually trust things already. So we simply need to apply that system of trust to the energy transition and to the climate transition. And so that also beds in, again, that equity consideration that you mentioned. So it's a multilateral system. Again, it's not a bunch of consultants in London or Brussels or DC who are in a room writing things that are then going to dictate how your business runs or how you can operate in your jurisdiction. It's all of the countries around the world coming together to speak on behalf of their perspectives and what their markets need to ensure that equity is built into the DNA of the rules that we're writing. And that is how the real economy works. That's how economic cooperation and trade works. I think international trade is underpinned by, 80% of standards in existence underpin trade, something a number as big as that. And so, again, it's back to that point. It's not just what technologies we use, but also how we design the rules that inform their development and deployment.
Great. Others?
Yeah, just very briefly on what you said. While listening to you, I looked into the room, and there are many people typing on their smartphones and so. And I thought, why are there people trusting that smartphone word, that it's a good thing? And I don't want to question this. Actually, there are many problematic issues related to smartphone, data privacy, cybercrime, and so on. But in the end, people believe, they trust that a world with smartphones is a better world. Why do they trust this? Because they are reliable use case every day. And I think we need the same for the energy transition. Reliable use case that prove that the energy transition, that an energy system built on renewables is a better way, makes daily life better than before. And if people feel this, if people experience this, they will build trust in it, and then the trust issue will also be resolved.
I love these examples, and they're illustrating how much trust we have with devices that we use today, with the way we expect the water to turn on, the energy to work. I'll just use one example that hit home to me when I heard about this specific 3M story. We have a customer, Tata Power in India, who India is, very crowded cities and infrastructure. In Mumbai, there's a lot of high density living, but an increased expectation for mobile phones and other devices to get electricity to people in Mumbai. By using material science and a composite-based conductor, we're able to deliver that cable with the same space, same towers, no disruption to the homes, and get twice the power to come into the homes in this community of low-income Mumbai. By just doing a materials substitution, that's essentially invisible to people in the process. There's so many things we do have invisible to us today, but it requires that partnership between making that be a suitable thing for the community in Mumbai, with the governments, working with the partnerships, the power company who's willing to take this in and say, oh, this is going to provide a trustworthy solution for the communities living locally. And that's something that's really exciting. It's not one thing, I don't think, that's a fell swoop that changes everything for everyone, but it's each individual choice and each individual residence and city that makes all the difference.
So, a couple things I've heard today. We know we have to accelerate the pace of technology deployment. We know we can do it because the technologies are ready, right? This isn't inventing anything new. It's just deploying it faster. That can be done. It is in the realm of our possibility. It is in our grasp, okay? We know we need partnerships. We can't do this by ourselves. We need to work with others. We need innovative partnerships to make this happen. We know we need credible standards. Standards have to help make everything connect and work together. So all these things go to building trust in the market, trust in the systems, trust with policymakers, trust with people and constituents and users of the system. So, when I came in, the panel was scaling clean energy with trust and speed. And I might say using trust to scale clean energy with speed. Because that is the key theme, is how do we do that better? And so how do we build that into our work? So this has been incredibly thought-provoking. I'm going to leave Belém with many new ideas to bring back to the Polski Energy Center at WRI. I hope you guys will too. And I just wanted to really thank you guys, thank the panel for their incredible thoughtfulness. And Emily, would you like to have the last word, explain what that slide is?
In perfect keeping with my ridiculous enthusiasm for good governance on this panel, we have prepared for you a QR code, which I encourage all of you to refer to at the end of this session, where you can find that link that I gave you before around finding more information about the work that the International Standards System is doing on the net zero transition and how you can find your country's national standards body. Recent Forbes coverage of this work, which is always good to highlight, to show you that even though standards may feel hidden, they've still made it to Forbes. And finally, leave you with the SI's Energy Transition Handbook, which distills for you in far more detail and eloquently than I have today all of the different facets of our work and more sector deep dives for you. And our energy team back in London is really excited to hear from you if you have any questions. So please don't let this conversation stop today in Belém. Do feel free to continue it with me or my colleagues in the UK through the details on that QR code.
Great, thank you, Emily. A round of applause. Final thoughts, Colin?
No thoughts, just let's go. Let's do it, right? That's
Let's
the
do
spirit.
We're excited up here. I don't know if you guys can tell, but we have a new sense of optimism. We're going to get this thing done. Thank you all for witnessing this.